You're listening to Consulting Logistics, presented by FreightPlus. I know I have the Aborn & Co. sign behind me. I've done my hard work to try to get us updated, but yeah, we've done a rebrand, and what a way to kick off the year. New year, new brand, same beard. So in this episode of Consulting Logistics, myself, Kyle MacNaught, I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey we went through, especially for rebranding, and then kind of what's in store this year for consulting logistics. I'm going to talk about why FreightPlus. It's an interesting name. I know there's one in New Zealand, South Australia that does heavy machinery. There's a couple of fun things, but I'm going to have a fun time talking about that. Talk a little bit about what the future of consulting logistics is going to look like. And then finally, we'll finish up with a little 2020 year in review, because you guys stuck with me and all of consulting logistics, all the hosts, all the guests through the pandemic. So thank you guys so much. First and foremost, the most important thing always is going to be to you. So yeah, let's jump into it. And I think the first question we're getting with this rebrand is why FreightPlus? Not that anyone's questioning it. They love the idea, especially if you work with the formerly Aborn & Co. But if you work with FreightPlus, it makes a ton of sense, right? It is what we do. We move freight plus so much more. You've heard from the experts internally that I get on the show all the time. It's not just truckload. It's not just LTL. It's everything. We talk air, we talk ocean, we talk rail, we talk all that stuff. And we talk to a lot of people. We have a fun network. So that's sort of the impetus of why FreightPlus made sense. Aborn & Co. was built before me. Somehow I know, right? But no, Dooner and shout out to all those guys. We used to be PMC Logistics. So you in the logistics world know for a fact all the acronym logistics, acronym transportation, all that stuff. So we used to be that. It's a really interesting story, something that we've talked to Russ Aborn before on the show, way back. So something to check out. But our story is really a cool one. It's one of innovation and how we kind of got here. But yeah, we were PMC Logistics for a long time because it made sense, right? What we were doing kind of was logistics work. It was book and freight, that type of stuff. We slowly transitioned around, I forget the year, but we decided a couple of years ago that we were doing more consulting work, right? We were being brought in to do negotiation bid strategy, and we were helping out with Fortune 100 and big companies, sort of going in there and seeing if they could save money. It was a lot of consulting work, right? Give us your data. We're going to look at what you're doing and then kind of give options and kind of help you with, is your transportation program in the best field that it possibly could be? So at that point, we realized that PMC Logistics doesn't really tell the story. And that's where we went with Aborn & Co. Really cool name, right? The boat, believe it or not, actually is one of the ships that the Aborn, Russ Aborn, his family came over to America on. So it's kind of why it's a logo. I know it's weird. We're not ocean. We're not just ocean freights. People are like always surprised, but yeah, there's a cool story behind it. And again, we have an episode, so you should go check that out. But we started running into, especially as we started to bring on more and more people in different kind of aspects, we realized that it's not just consulting, right? We were giving this great strategy, this great advice. But at the end of the day, it is people, it is technology. And that was sort of the thing that we spotted and started bringing that on board. So that was a big thing we were doing, was bringing on data scientists, load planners, experts like the Chris Peckham that I've already spoken to, who just have a ton of experience working for Adidas, for Wayfair, for huge companies, and really kind of helping run these strategies, run these programs, run these processes that we were finding that companies just didn't know. It wasn't that they weren't doing the right thing. It was just that there's a better option out there. And it's mainly that a lot of people were just stuck booking freight day in and day out. So that was sort of where we were running into a wall. People, especially our clients, were experiencing like what is Aborn? Their people, the people that they interact with internally, are like, wait, Aborn & Company is the freight? Like what is that? It sounds like a consultant agency. So about before the pandemic last year, but probably early in the year of 2020. Oh man, RIP. That was such a good year at the beginning. But before we started talking, and the big thing was kind of like, we're changing. A lot of what we're doing is transitioning. And if you listen to the latest episode 101 on innovation in the logistics industry, Jill talked about this. Jill Clifford, the president here at FreightPlus, talked a little bit about what was happening. So I'm actually going to throw to that clip, just the thing that I thought was really poignant to what I'm trying to say.
probably about 5 years ago, we kind of had a big shift in our model. And really, what shifted is we became very, very, very focused on not just supporting our clients with our expertise in the marketplace, but really managing that day to day operation for them. And what we saw is there were a lot of companies out there that just couldn't afford the technology and the team required in order to do things the right way. And so in the last 5 years, we've become really that fully integrated solution for our clients. And I don't like to call it an outsourced solution because we view ourselves as employees of our clients, right? So we have become, and that's not changed since 1988. It really hasn't. And so we've become our clients' transportation function. And so orders drop into our technology, where we then manage from order to optimization to tender to track to trace to carrier invoice. We have all the order details. We have all the carrier invoicing details. And that load planning team is managing all of that day to day. And sitting alongside of them is the account management team, who still is providing that consultative approach to solving problems. We're also now have these really deep dive data analytics that we're not just reporting on, we're actually talking back in a digital environment to our clients' own systems so that they can really run their business and we can take care of the day-to-day operations of the carrier relationships and make sure not just that we have, the right carrier with the right service at the right price, but we're making sure that our clients are in the best solution for managing all the day-to-day and all the strategic thinking and practices that go along with working with their carriers. So that's really been the shift over the last 5 years. People use the word innovate all the time, right? So how do you innovate and how do you stay current and for us, it's all about being customer focused. When you are customer focused and you are working to achieve and meet the needs, and not just the wants, but the needs and the requirements of our clients in order to manage their freight, you're going to innovate by default, right?
So yeah, that was the thing, right? We became customer focused. Jill kind of really hit the nail on the head. It wasn't that we became it. My bad. We've always been customer focused, but the people we're bringing in, the stuff like that, we wanted to help our customers explain, especially because as shippers, your job isn't just working with just your third-party logistics or your brokerage or any of these people or carriers. You're working internally and you're trying to explain your operation. And it's one of the most complicated operations because everyone can ship crap. They know how to do it, right? They do it in their personal lives. But when it comes to the complexities of shipping B2B into crazy customers and distribution and warehouses and stuff and bringing it all in, it's not easy. And we felt that this name change was interesting. So it took us a while to get here. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't something that was very simple. In fact, I got the timeline down here, so I'm going to look at it. So from first meeting with our agency, we hired a marketing agency here in Norwood, Massachusetts, 95 Creative. Great group, kind of young up and coming, tons of really cool, interesting stuff there. Big shout out to Janet. She and I talk every day, more or less, about kind of what we're doing. And then Joelle and Christine are amazing creatives over there. So yeah, essentially, again, back to the story. I'm horrible at telling stories. If you ask my wife, she hates it. She will not be listening to this episode. Back in early 2020, we decided that we wanted to kind of do a rebrand. We saw that where the writing on the wall was. We were recognizing that a lot of times when we were doing great content, we were doing great interactions, stuff like that. At the end of the day, people were like, who is A-Board? So we realized we were spending a lot of time just explaining what A-Board meant. And we want to take that off people's plates. We wanted our name to make sense, explaining what we're doing, stuff like that. So around the beginning of the year, pandemic happened, crazy stuff. And probably August or September was when we're like, all right, let's go. We want to get this moving. We kind of have finished up some stuff. We can focus on this. So we reached out to a couple of agencies and we found 95. And they're fascinating. They're a great little organization. Again, I'm giving them massive shout outs, but great group to reach out to. So on September 24th, we had our first meeting. What that consisted of was some team, as safe as possible, of course, a couple very limited amount of people from 95 kind of coming into a very big room where we could socially distance, and sitting down with myself, Chris Peckham, Jill Clifford, and Steve Aborn, and then Courtney Conyers, who is a fun, awesome, fresh out of college, fresh perspective. She was the youth voice for us, which was extremely helpful. We sat down and we started brainstorming. Now, we had some homework before. And this was kind of a cool thing where we did have our entire team kind of buy in on this, but we also didn't want to take up their time. So we had a couple questionnaires, some fun stuff like what type of animal do you think aborn encompasses, which had some very interesting answers. I should have pulled them up. I forgot to do that, but some fun answers of what people thought of when they thought of aborn, but a lot of kind of feely stuff, which I mean, in the logistics world, we really don't do too much. It's kind of like we are very literal. We're going here to there. We're getting the product. It's not like lovey-dovey feely stuff. So that was a fun exercise. But collected all that homework. The 95 creative went through it, kind of helped digest what they felt were some themes, some common themes and stuff. So back to that meeting on September 24th, we sat down, we really went through the themes, and we started kind of spitballing, kind of understanding and helping a marketing agency who's not within the logistics industry understand what we are, how we're a little different and stuff like that. So that was fun. Luckily, I think enough of us in the room were kind of new, so we knew when they would start going down rabbit holes of where they think logistics is about. We're able to be like, oh, no. I've already come to that conclusion. You think that, but that's not the case. So that was an interesting thing for us. But yeah, we walked out of that meeting with a couple things. They came back to us about a week later with about four sort of designs with like 3 logos and 3 names and all that stuff. It was really cool. And then it was just a collaborative effort. It was kind of going back and forth. What did we like? What didn't we like? Where do we want? And again, the whole point was, how do we tell our story better? How do we eliminate needing to say what Aborn & Co. is? How do we get to our answer and our solution so people want to go to us right away? And I think we came to that. I think at the end of the day, all of us kind of in our gut really like the name FreightPlus. Now, there's plenty of fun behind the scenes stuff that I could always talk about, and I'm already rambling, but I'm doing it pretty well, if you ask me. But yeah, there were some logistical issues with FreightPlus. One and foremost was that name's out there. I mean, it's not an unknown, right? Just adding the word plus to the word freight isn't like we are Harvard grads. One of us is, but he doesn't like it. It wasn't that difficult, right? So of course we came into competition. One big thing, I think, from my point of view, is that we do a great job of content. So I feel we felt that it was a challenge we were willing to take on, and how we were going to kind of do that was something with where our strengths were going to be. We recognize that we do have a really good content marketing team. We do have a really good kind of marketing agenda and what we're doing with some stuff. So that was sort of where we thought we could go ahead and create this type of, go ahead and take on the competition, take on the naming stuff. We wanted to avoid being ABC Logistics. We wanted to avoid being a TCW or TCS Logistics. There's a specific reason I said TCS. But yeah, we wanted to not be that. Because what we're offering isn't that, right? Well, again, back to what Jill said, what we're offering is very unique. It's very different. It's a full managed service. It's a long-term partnership. It's for companies. It's not for an individual to kind of just do their job. We work for entire companies, and we want a long-term partnership because of what we do takes time. There's cost savings right off the bat, but then there's cost control, there's people, there's technology, there's process, there's all this additional stuff that we bring in, never mind the insights. So that was why we came to FreightPlus. And so on November 16th, we made our final design. We kind of went through a couple things, a couple tweaks and stuff like that, but we had our final design. So finally, that's kind of like the week before Thanksgiving. So great, I got this design. Now go. It's holidays, all the fun stuff. So timing did not work out from like first meeting to final deliverable. It was about 7 weeks, which was something. I mean, full transparency as the marketer, we were thinking 5 weeks. So we thought we'd have the beginning of November to kind of start planning all this stuff out. Didn't really get it till the end, and no one's fault. It's just creative going back and forth. So that was something that I probably could have planned a little bit better for. We probably could have done it earlier, and we could have probably put the pedal to the metal a little bit faster. And at the end of the day, it's all communication. So in December, we decided that we were going to try to inform our clients before we even went publicly. So we had an internal rollout, we had an external rollout. Mainly, we used kind of the beginning of December to have client calls, talk to our champions. I mean, one of the big things, and it'll be a part of my kind of lessons learned takeaway, was use your champions. Make sure your champions, especially within your clients, make them feel special because they are special. They're the brand advocates for you. So if you're changing up your brand, make sure the brand advocate knows you're changing up your brand, right? So yeah, we spent a lot of the beginning of December really just talking, informing, being on meetings, talking, informing, being on meetings, soliciting feedback, that type of stuff. I mean, I for 7 weeks, I was looking at it every single day. So we went out there, we really we informed as best we could and tried to make sure that we were relieving any ideas, any intention, any worries people had, there's some surprising things that people were worried about, especially for us, because we're just like, no, this is just, we want to tell our story better. And people were like, did you guys get bought out? Did this happen? Did this happen? And that was sort of surprising for us. But did all that, end of December after the holidays. Basically, it was roll up your sleeves time. It was updating websites, updating social, updating emails, updating everything, making sure everyone felt comfortable, making sure that all worked. I probably took for granted how hard that was going to be. I probably thought, no, I looked at some things and made sure I checked it. And it was like, okay, this isn't going to take a long time. But there definitely was some, I don't know how to say it, but like interesting moments, to say the least, especially the email. Super fun. But yeah, I mean, soup to nuts. I think that's the saying. 7 weeks of kind of from first meeting to last, tons of creative, but I think I have some interesting lessons learned from this whole experience. So my first lesson learned was communicate. I mean, it's an abstract concept. Abstract's very hard. Creative's very hard to visualize, especially when it's a brand, when it's something that you're like, well, I got to feel this. You're like, what do you mean feel? It's a brand, it's a company and stuff like that. And like, trust me, I've sat in every marketing conference and all that stuff. And I'm more one who rolls my eyes. I'm like, oh, the feel of Pixar and the feel of Nike and the feel of Apple. I'm like, it's a brand, man. Like if the product works, then I'm going to like the brand. But it is interesting. It is interesting of how difficult abstract and creative can be. So a big thing is the more you can communicate, the better it is. And you kind of really want to communicate what you're looking for. I do it a decent amount with the podcast, right? A lot of my guests, when they come on the podcast, what I try to provide them is a rough cut where I tell them, like, all you're listening for is the messaging. And usually I try to avoid making anything look too pretty because I don't want them to pay attention to, well, I didn't look good, or I looked like this sounded weird, or my voice sounds off. I just want you to listen to the messaging. And with the rebrand, I probably should have done a better job of communicating. This is what we're looking at. This is what is flexible. This is what can't change after we make this decision. So communication is hard. And I think it's one of those things that I could say it to you. And if you're going through a rebrand, most of you guys are shippers, so you're probably like, what the hell does this matter to me? But it is something that you definitely have to talk a lot about and make sure that you're doing it. But it's also like you can hear it, and it's not until all of a sudden you're like, oh man, like why does no one recognize this? It's one of those types of things. So first lesson was communicate. Second lesson, solicit feedback, and kind of goes back to that one thing I was talking about brand champions. We did do a good job at this. I'm very proud of how well we reached out to our champions, the people who, the clients who really digest our content, the clients who are really invested in what we are and how we're succeeding. I went out and reached out to them directly, and I sat down. We gave them 15 minutes of their time right before crazy peak season. So it wasn't so good, but at least we gave them some time to really listen. You're special to us. You really believe in what we're doing. We're doing this, and I want to know what you think about it. And that feedback was so invaluable. because it helped me realize what when we go out to the larger public, when the rollout continues, what some people may be thinking. One big thing was like, did you guys get bought out? What's this mean? Why is a name change happening? Because a lot of people associate that with like, hey, you got purchased. Like this is different. There's a whole new thing. And especially the brand advocates were like, what the heck? Like we really liked what you do, and you're telling me that like, you're changing that up, and that was a big thing. So really, really talking. The other thing was talking to the clients. The clients really, really enjoyed it. Not only the advocates, but when we brought it to the whole team, they enjoyed it, and then it kind of had them buy in a little bit more. It's something like, yeah, I mean, how much do you care about what your vendor's name changed, right? So the more we talked about it, the more like they heard it and they realized that nothing was changing. They're like, oh, this makes so much sense. You guys do this. This helps me, because now when I'm going out there saying like we're using Freight Plus, people are like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Logistics, I would use Freight Plus. So that was a really, really interesting thing. And like the third lesson I would say is swag definitely helps. As you can tell, I'm wearing this awesome shirt. If you watch Put That Coffee Down or Supply Chain Now yesterday, we look damn good. The swag helps, the clothing helps, sending out stuff helps, and it really helps internally too. One of the coolest things I'm seeing right now is people walking around this office wearing the shirts that I'm wearing all this stuff, and really buying into it. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's something I never really bought swag before. I never really thought of that. So like definitely getting gear, getting apparel, thinking of that, especially if you're doing something like a rebrand, you want people to like feel it. This is the best way to feel it, right? It's sitting on your shirt. So communicate, solicit feedback, and then get some swag. That would be my kind of three big takeaways from what a rebrand was like in the logistics world. So moving on now in terms of the future of consulting logistics and what we're going to be doing. We're still going to be the awesome show, right? We're still going to be this kind of interesting podcast. I still fully believe in the value of shared experiences in trusted experts. So that's what we're going to continue to bring. We're presented by FreightPlus. That's the only change, really. We're going to try to do a little bit better job of focusing on themes in education. I think the pandemic threw everyone for a loop. Mine was mainly like I didn't get to have that one-on-one access to my guys. My guys were working. They were working hard. They were really making sure everyone was staying afloat. They were using the data. They were doing everything. So I didn't really get to bring on my internal experts and kind of continue to help educate. So that's one of the big things I want to bring into 2021 is continuing with those guys educating on special things. And really the special things comes from you, the listening audience. So send me emails and let me know of topics that you think would be interesting. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's chat. Hell, if you chat on the YouTube comments, I'm going to be writing back and forth with you. I just love it. I'm trying to engage as much as possible. I'm actually, believe it or not, naturally kind of shy. So I'm a little awkward, but yeah, please send me an email, kmacnaught, MacNaughd at freightplus.io. And that's a great way to kind of, if there's stuff you were interested in, I would love to hear about it. And I'm probably going to say, do you want to come on the show? So yeah, education is definitely one of the big things. And the topics we want to talk about are topics that we think are important. I like my trusted experts. I love the people on staff that we have. They're super, super knowledgeable because A, they help me with my research, but B, when they get on, they speak the language and you guys really connect. So that's going to be one of the big focuses, is definitely showing a little more of our internal experts in the year 2021. The other thing we want to do is kind of focus on shared experiences and the theme of what is the logistics operations in other companies. I mean, that's a big thing, right? The conferences were virtual this year. We all kind of had to focus, but I mean, it's still one thing that really is important for you as a listener, and kind of why you're kind of out there digesting content is you're trying to hear what else is someone experiencing. I'm dealing with this. Did someone else experience this? Is this crazy? So that's going to be a focus we have as well this upcoming time. We're going to try to bring on some business leaders, stuff like the Jeremy Eisenberg that we had last year from ChecksFinder Food, and have business leaders talk about their freight operation, what they think of their logistics operation and stuff like that. I think that's so valuable to hear about. And you're hearing from the horse's mouth, right? You're not having the sales or marketing person come in there and go, this is why this could be important. It's going to be a really focused thing. So that is where I'm going to be taking consulting logistics. It's still going to be the same great show. We're still going to continue posting a video version of it, an audio version of it. It's going to be every Friday. But that's where we're going to kind of continue with the content. Newsletter wise, if you listen to the end of this episode, you always hear me pumping it out. We're going to scale back on that. I think that all of us are sick and tired of emails, right? We all got bugged. We all got bogged down. We all got harassed with emails in 2020. I think that it's not the type of channel that was working. So we're going to probably scale that back to a bi-weekly or monthly type of thing. It's still going to include great content. One of the things I'm really, really excited about is going to be a market update. Now, it's not going to be a market update where here's the stats, here's the truck line loads, here's how many loads and stuff like that. It's going to be more anecdotal. Again, shared experiences. My experts are out there talking to carriers every single day and talking to a variety of carriers in different modes, different regions, different everything. So they're going to continue to do shared experiences. Now, our clients already kind of get this, so I'm just going to try to bring a more generic version of what they're getting and bring it out to you. So again, the newsletter is something to sign up for. If you go to freightplus.io/resources, you'll see it right there. Right now, it's still called the Aborn Viewpoint. I'm probably going to change that up. I haven't thought about it. You heard my timeline. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for your boy. So yeah, that's kind of what my plan is. Still going to do whiteboard videos. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to continue that type of stuff. We were getting a lot of traction. And again, that's all based off of, content ideas, topics that you guys want to hear. So please reach out to me. So that's the future of consulting logistics. Now let's go back, Marty, and look at what 2020 was like. Because 2020 was crazy. No duck. I was there, experienced it. Thanks for the update. 2020 was a fun year for us. It was my first full year presenting and hosting. Again, the thing I like about consulting logistics is it isn't Kyle MacNaught presents consulting logistics. It is a lot of, I like different hosts. Honestly, I think I'm the worst one because I'm not talking the language. I'm not the one that's like, wow, that's a fascinating interview. I'm more of just hey, this is interesting. What do you think? So 2020 was interesting. We had a couple of different hosts. We got to have some new things come on there, and it was really exciting. So total number of episodes we had was 46 episodes. So missed one or two. Again, it was, I did kind of have a curve, but I don't think I missed an episode then. But yeah, we missed one or two episodes. But 46, still a great number of podcasts. Weekly podcasts. We were putting it out. Total number of downloads. We had 12,600, around that number of downloads. Now, that was mainly what I did the year before. And the year before, we also missed about 3 months because the transition between Dooner and I. But I'm not too let down about that. It is a little disappointing, but in other channels, I saw huge growth. Our YouTube channel grew to 200 subscribers, and it was from 8. So those types of things are happy. And I'm excited to see that type of stuff. And sure, it sounds like nothing, especially in the age of the internet where millions upon millions of views and influencers, but screw TikTok. I ain't going to do that crap. We're creating content in locations that are interesting to you. So it's niche content too. But yeah, the download numbers stayed the same. And very much of the early part of coronavirus, everything went down. So not surprised by any of that stuff. But the good thing is that as the year started to turn around, things have started to pick up. And that's a cool thing. And honestly, even though the numbers were down, I thought it was one of the best years we had as consulting logistics. We had some really fun behind the scenes stuff. On this area right here, we talked to Haley Mason. I don't know why I messed up Haley's name. But Haley, she was our intern. It was a cool story. And a fun thing was that whole intro we had was truly off the cuff. It wasn't planned. I didn't realize we did it until I was editing the video. But the whole her being what do I say if I mess up? I'm like, Haley, you're just talking. That was a fun thing. The Supply Chain 30 with Dan Burke, one of our brokerage guys. That one was, I was filming that one. So I was here in this room, but Courtney Conyers was the one who was hosting it. That was a fun one. Dan's a fun guy, especially here in the office. So we have less than 10 people here, but it's still a fun energy. Dan's always laughing. The whole little room that he's in is hilarious, very spread out and stuff and safe. But those guys are always joking around. It's a blast. But yeah, poor Dan. I probably messed with him way too much because he did a whiteboard video. If you got to watch that. And that video was fun to say the least. He turned into like, I don't know what to do with my hands, Ricky Bobby, like immediately. And I was like, oh no. So when I was like, let's do the 30 SEU 30, I was a little nervous to say the least, but Dan did a good job. I think he was very exciting. He did script out his answers a little bit, so a little shame on him. He's talking about himself. Why you script that out? I'm doing this unscripted. No big deal. It's not that hard. So yeah, shame on Dan. JK, love you, Dan. And then finally, I loved recording the 100th episode. The fun thing, I wish I could pull up my computer, but it's working right now. But I was having this technical glitch where all of a sudden my screen would go crazy, and I couldn't see anything on my screen. So when I was recording the 100th episode with Dooner, I couldn't see what Dooner was. So that's kind of what I'm sitting there trying to guesstimate. Because when we're doing those shows where there's like the 2 box or with the 3 boxes when I'm at my house or something like that, I'm producing on live. So while I'm asking those interviews, I'm actually clicking like what person I want, full screen, stuff like that. So the Dooner one was fun because Dooner was really about it. He's super excited. It was cool to talk to him. It was cool. I mean, to see the former host and how high up he's gotten on this show is awesome to kind of talk to him. And then his TED Talk, if you haven't gotten to see that, he did that recently. It's definitely online. That's a fun, it's really cool kind of hearing his story and stuff like that. But that was a fun one. Dooner was definitely all about the stuff. And it was kind of fun. Like for someone I never really met in person, I had never met him, kind of came in a couple months after he left. So I never had the opportunity. We didn't really cross paths too much. But it was so easy. He was so excited. It was cool to kind of have that support. So that was some cool things. I mean, in terms of favorite episodes, there's a couple of them. I mean, I love everyone I just mentioned was a favorite, but of course, I loved all the episodes. There's a ton of my buddies like Blythe and Jen that jumped on for me right in the middle of coronavirus. That was awesome. So helpful. Truck Park. I mean, Truck Park's blowing up right now. It's really cool that we had I think I was Anthony Petty's first interview. And now Truck Park's like everywhere. So especially in the logistics industry, so cool to have those guys. And like Anthony's a cool kid, man, a cool cat. I don't know why I said kid. He's definitely, we're the same age, or I might be a little bit younger. No big deal. Anthony's great. You know what? There's an SCU 30 with Maddie Kelly where I went to CVS Health in 2020. Went to an office, got to go into a building, got to go in there with no mask and all that stuff. Like thinking back to that is nuts. Like just remembering like, oh yeah, you could go into someone's office and it wasn't like a big deal. And that was a cool one. Maddie Kelly's are really cool. And CVS Health was cool to just sort of see their logistics operations, a huge floor thing. So seeing those like big groups is awesome. So that was a really fun one. My Australian guys, I mean, Andrew Clark and Richard Duncan reaching out to me from Australia, being like, I want to come on the show. So much fun. And it was really cool to hear down under. I mean, a little kind of spoiler alert. I really, really, really want to visit Australia one day. Always was a Crocodile Hunter fan kid. I mean, come on. I grew up in Florida. I was a swamp child, no matter what you say to my wife. But yeah, I always wanted to go to Australia. It was kind of cool to talk to those guys. Like a kind of a little interesting time, right? Like finding the time zones to record all that stuff, but they were awesome. Definitely want to have them on again. I mean, just talking to them, they're so excited about everything. Really hoping that everything's good with them. I know that last time I talked to them, they were about to hit lockdown again, and spoiler alert, so did we. Yay, fun. But that was great. The doctors, I think, were another cool one. If you haven't got to check it out, Dr. Ed Nielsen Bernardez, talking about his kind of book that he wrote, was a fascinating conversation. He's awesome. He loves me. He likes all this stuff. Listen, you like my stuff and we connected as a host. I'm going to keep talking to you. I think you're awesome. But he was a really, really interesting conversation. That was one of those ones where I got sent the book and I'm trying to read the book as fast as I can while doing work, trying to research, getting all that stuff done. So that was it was one I was kind of proud of myself. It's more like, hey, it was kind of cool that I was able to pull that off. But yeah, that was a fun one. And then Dr. Jason Miller, I know I messed up the first time I posted it, and the audio was kind of messed up. So I'm very bummed at the people that didn't get to hear it, because the first time it came by, they're like, what the hell, it's broken. But Dr. Jason Miller is one you need to listen to. Episode 96. It is a great episode. I want to have him on more. He's always on LinkedIn. He's posting these amazing things all about kind of the data of what's happening in the industry. And I thought it was just fascinating. I mean, he predicted a ton of stuff that we saw happen. So that was an episode I really wish I hadn't messed up. But yeah, I mean, all the other guests, every guest I had on was great. My lawyers, everyone that I had come on, it just helped me out. I can't thank you enough. If you're a former guest that's listened to this, thank you for coming on. All the listeners who stuck with me when you weren't driving to work, right? The whole idea of this podcast was you're driving to work on Friday. I'm trying to release this thing, and all of a sudden you're not driving to work. And for some reason, you still want to keep listening. I couldn't thank you guys enough. I mean, 2020 wasn't, numbers wise, wasn't a great year, but feel and everything like that and support was huge. And I mean, the kudos to you guys. We've been getting recognized. We've been being asked on more stuff. And really, that's all you. I mean, it's all the listeners and you guys who watch and like this stuff and help share it. I could not thank you guys enough. So, Consulting Logistics presented by FreightPlus. Nothing's changing. I'm excited to bring this all to you guys. I think I just talked for 30 minutes straight, which is pretty impressive. So I'm going to have to close this out because I got to get editing and all this stuff. But yeah, if you are interested in a topic, if you are a guest that you think should be on the show, if anything, reach out to me. MacNaught, MACN as in Nancy, AUGHT at FreightPlus.io. Reach out to me. Let me know, hey, Kyle, got an awesome topic that you should talk about. And 100% watch this video on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our podcast, and just keep being awesome. So thanks for watching Consulting Logistics. I'm MacNaught. Rock and roll.